Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a massive, fundamental shift in how Ontario is utilizing cutting-edge AI to transform a looming, very real geopolitical waste crisis into a definitive industrial advantage. We're going to look at a literal masterclass in how physical infrastructure, regulatory foresight, and frontier silicon all converge to build an entirely new type of sovereign supply chain. Specifically, we'll be looking at how the 905 Wood digital refinery acts as what we call the Sentient Bridge, flawlessly connecting the absolute chaos of unregulated construction waste with the incredibly strict high-purity requirements of the advanced biocarbon market. By the end of this, you'll see exactly how operationalizing hardware like the Google Pixel 10 Pro alongside frontier AI definitively secures Ontario's industrial leadership within the global circular bioeconomy. Let's get right into it. Here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with the cross-border waste crisis, move into the 2026 USMCA joint review, explore 905 Wood and decoupled billing, dive into the pyrolysis biocarbon solution, break down the Sentient Bridge workflow, and wrap up with Ontario's bioeconomy future. Section 1. We really have to start with a massive, growing problem, the imminent collapse of traditional cross-border dump-and-forget waste management models. Now, take a look at this physical reality on screen. Ontario's construction industry currently sends roughly 1 million tons of unregulated, unverified waste. We're talking scattered brick, jagged wood, and rubble exactly like what you see here, to landfills every single year. Staggeringly, the province actually lacks precise, granular data on the exact composition of this industrial, commercial, and institutional waste. It's essentially a chaotic, entirely untraceable flow of materials that is acting as a massive compounding liability for the region. You literally cannot manage what you cannot measure. Compounding this local chaos is a staggering number, 3.44 million tons. That is the amount of waste currently exported out of the region. This massive export volume makes Ontario highly vulnerable to volatile, protectionist trade policies and sudden tariffs. Think about it. When your entire regional waste management strategy relies heavily on the regulatory benevolence of a neighboring country, you don't actually have a strategy. What you have is a ticking clock. Section 2. And that profound vulnerability brings us to a critical geopolitical deadline that is forcing immediate innovation. The alarm is officially set for the mandatory July 1, 2026 USMCA joint review, which is approaching rapidly. The U.S. Trade Representative's signal here is crystal clear. Maintaining perfectly traceable and verified supply chains across the border is no longer optional. In an era where sweeping trade tariffs can literally be leveraged overnight, any cross-border movement of goods, even something as unglamorous as waste that cannot definitively prove its origin and its material purity, faces massive failure risks. We're talking border audits, extreme delays, and outright blockades. Perfect, immutable compliance is now the only shield. Section 3. So, how does a government economically incentivize the local retention and sorting of these materials to avoid that border crisis? You have to connect the physical technology to the capital through smart policy. And in this case, that policy is the 905 Wood decoupled billing method. Think of traditional bundled waste logistics billing kind of like an all-inclusive hotel. Your collection, your transport, and your disposal are all just bundled together into one opaque, flat rate. You've no idea what you're actually paying for. Decoupling, on the other hand, acts like a brutally honest itemized receipt. By shifting to 905 Wood decoupled billing, businesses pay fair market rates for their logistics, but they face a very transparent, separate surcharge for their non-diverted waste. It completely isolates the disposal penalty, making it painfully obvious exactly how much their operational inefficiency is costing them. Let's break the math down, because this is where it gets brilliant. By separating clean wood waste at the source, businesses completely avoid the $60 per ton CIR/CIL levy. That's the Circular Innovation and Recycling Contribution Incentive Levy. So if sorting your clean wood costs, say, $50 a ton in labor, but you avoid a $60 per ton penalty, you actually net a direct savings of $10 per ton over traditional landfilling. This flawlessly supplements the RE Wood Initiative's landfill ban. It takes a burdensome compliance mandate and transforms it into a direct, measurable economic incentive. Section 4. Once that clean wood is successfully separated on site, it needs a specialized destination that effectively connects the physical recovery to actual capital markets. Which brings us to the fascinating science of pyrolysis. This actively transforms unmerchantable, low-grade wood into a highly valuable, low-carbon industrial coal alternative. Unlike traditional incineration, which just burns material, destroys the value, and vents massive amounts of carbon right back into the atmosphere, high-temperature pyrolysis starves the environment of oxygen. Think of it more like roasting coffee beans in a sealed drum, instead of lighting them on fire. It physically stabilizes the carbon locked in the wood, creating a solid, highly stable, high-value product. To scale this, Ontario strategically invested $2.25 million into Char Technologies. Their facility processes this exact type of 905 wood biomass, like what you see piled up here, into advanced biocarbon pellets. These pellets are then used by heavy industries, like steelmaking, to replace traditional fossil coal. Furthermore, this process generates lucrative carbon removal certificates, or CORCs. This facility isn't a dump. It's a critical node in an advanced bioeconomy. But here is the million-dollar logistical question. How do we guarantee the absolute purity of the chaotic wood entering this highly advanced, sensitive facility? Section 5. How do we bridge that massive gap between chaotic, messy field waste and the strict, high-purity demands of the advanced biocarbon market? Enter the 905 Wood Digital Refinery. This platform acts as the Sentient Bridge. It is a proprietary digital ecosystem that turns physical, messy waste recovery into immutable digital compliance. It replaces human guesswork and fragile, easily lost paper manifest with absolute algorithmic certainty. This isn't just a software tracking tool. It is a rigid digital enforcement mechanism that bridges the gap between field chaos and industrial precision. And to do this in the real world, this platform is powered entirely at the edge. The system utilizes the Google Pixel 10 Pro hardware, the incredibly powerful Tensor G5 chip, and the Android 16 operating system. Why do this all on the edge instead of the cloud? Well, because an active, dusty demolition site rarely has reliable Wi-Fi, and waiting around for cloud server latency is a total non-starter for field operators. By utilizing advanced turboquant compression alongside the incredibly efficient LiteRT AI stack, the platform compresses massive computational workloads so they can execute directly on the device. The neural processing capabilities of the Tensor G5 handle this heavy payload natively. Because of that robust edge architecture, it seamlessly runs a localized suite of frontier AI models directly in the field without any cloud reliance. The orchestration happening here is staggering. You have Gemini 3.1 Pro and the lightning-fast Gemini 3 Flash handling real-time, multimodal visual analysis of the wood piles to spot any microscopic contamination. Simultaneously, Claude Opus 4.6 and Claude Sonnet 4.6 reason through the complex regulatory legal logic, all while GPT-OSS 120B handles localized natural language processing tasks. It is a completely interlocking AI architecture running flawlessly in the palm of a hand. Let's look at how this builds into an actual field workflow. Step 1. The operator simply points the Pixel 10 Pro at the 905 wood pile for field data capture. Step 2. The onboard visual and reasoning models instantly cross-reference Ontario Regulation 347, which is the province's foundational general waste management framework, ensuring strict, perfect legal compliance via LiteRT processing. Step 3. The digital refinery application's incredibly intuitive UI/UX then automatically generates a commercial request for quote, or RFQ, for the logistics. And finally, step 4, it outputs a flawlessly formatted, immutable PDF document. The entire workflow happens locally, securely, and in milliseconds. This automated, edge-computed documentation instantly establishes a mathematically verifiable certificate of origin and verification. So when U.S. Customs demands absolute traceability, under that 2026 USMCA review we talked about, Ontario doesn't just offer a messy, handwritten paper trail. It provides a cryptographically secure AI-verified certificate of origin, generated right at the exact source of the material. This perfectly mitigates the immense failure risks associated with border audits and completely bulletproofs corporate ESG reporting. Section 6. This incredible convergence of public policy, advanced chemistry, and edge AI represents a historic leap forward for regional industrial strategy. By deploying infrastructure like Home Depots and specialized circular innovation districts, Ontario is fundamentally redesigning its supply chains from the ground up. As the sources detail, there are plans to turn legacy spaces, like Toronto's historic Wellington Destructor, into exactly these kinds of circular hubs. These aren't just local drop-off centers. They are designed as high-tech eco-industrial clusters where recovered materials, cleanly certified by our Edge AI, are immediately purchased, upcycled, and integrated right back into new manufacturing cycles. Ultimately, operationalizing the Pixel 10 Pro alongside this suite of frontier AI definitively secures Ontario's industrial leadership within the global circular bioeconomy. By utilizing the Sentient Bridge to generate high-value inputs like biocarbon, avoiding punitive levies, and producing ironclad compliance data in real time, the province successfully decouples its environmental and economic security from the highly unpredictable tides of U.S. trade policy. It allows them to harvest massive carbon dividends locally. It really is a masterstroke of technological and industrial sovereignty. I want to leave you with this final thought to consider. In an era of increasingly protectionist trade, digital verification and real, on-the-ground circularity might just be the ultimate shield against global trade wars. If the Sentient Bridge architecture can take a pile of chaotic construction rubble and perfectly transform it into verified high-purity biocarbon right at the edge, what other incredibly vulnerable, chaotic global supply chains are out there just waiting to be completely upended and secured by AI? Thank you for exploring this fascinating, highly technical intersection of geopolitics, waste management, and edge compute with me today.